Hello people, I'm the Austrian Leninist and this is my first video on this YouTube channel. So for my first video I want to debunk some myths about communism that really annoy me or that I hear a lot of times. Number 1. Socialism is an undemocratic dictatorship, or simply socialism is undemocratic. This is an argument that you obviously hear a lot when people try to dismiss the socialist countries or the USSR as being undemocratic. While in reality, ironically, the Soviet democracy or the system of Soviet democracy was actually inspired, or at least is very similar to, the voting system in the USA. Because in fact the USSR also had a representative democracy. Because basically how Soviet democracy works is that people elect a local Soviet. That local Soviet elects a district Soviet, a Soviet that has more power than the local Soviets. Then the district Soviets elect basically regional Soviets and so on until you have the highest stage of the government that would either be the parliament, the Politburo, or you'd have a leader. This is also what many socialists refer to as the dictatorship of the proletariat. And as you might have guessed by my explanation, dictatorship of the proletariat isn't supposed to be a literal dictatorship. And while we're at it, I'd like to add that if you think that this system from socialism is a dictatorship or a one-party state, which it actually isn't because people could have parties, like whatever. If you think this is a one-party state, then think about whether or not the US is a one-party state. And then look at a political compass, and you will find that Democrats and Republicans from America, they are pretty much the same thing on the political compass, on the broader scale. So maybe next time when you point out that socialists were one-party states, maybe you look at your own government first. Although this doesn't apply to Europe, of course, because Europe, in fact, has a lot of parties in most parliaments. But similar to America, besides the Social Democrats, there's only pretty much different capitalist parties. And even if you look at it, the Social Democrats are also capitalists in a way or another. So, kinda like the USSR and other socialist states only had reforms under the socialist system, we also kinda only have reforms under the capitalist system. So, in a way, we're also one-party states, or I'd rather call it one-system states. And just while I am talking about the American two-party system, I just want to mention that being a liberal doesn't really make you a leftist in the sense of the word. Because as a liberal or a libertarian or whatever, you'd ideally also want less government, maybe more workers' rights, but you're still going with capitalism. And capitalism on itself is a pretty right-wing thing. So if you look at any bigger political spectrum, you'll most often find that Democrats and Republicans are right next to each other. The only big differences you'll notice is that one side is pro-choice and pro-equality, while the other is pro-life or something. Number 2. Stalin's cult of personality. Apparently, there's a big faction that really likes to point out how Stalin had a cult of personality to lead his people. And then they try to act as if this was an internally evil thing and everyone that does it was evil because Hitler did it. On the other hand, these people don't seem to notice that the founding fathers of America also pretty much have a cult of personality by now. Or that some people can be obsessed with politicians in general. And that's also the point where I wouldn't even say that cults of personalities are an inherently bad thing. It really just depends on who you are making a cult of personality for. Of course, the cult of personality with Hitler and Mussolini was a bad thing. But in the Soviet Union or as a socialist, or even as an American founding fathers freedom-loving man, cults of personalities are fine by me. I mean, at least in my case and in the case of a lot of people that lived under cults of personalities, they really give you an inspiration or a motivation to work or to have goals, to aspire or something. One case of a cult of personality working out fine would be Yugoslavia, for example. There's some people that say that Yugoslavia fell apart because without Tito there was no cult and no need to keep Yugoslavia united and keep Yugoslavia going. And we all know how Yugoslavia fell to nationalist wars that could have been avoided if the sense of Yugoslavian unity would have been there. But of course, there's other examples of cult of personalities working out, like in China or the USSR. People were motivated to work because they had this thing in mind that they are serving their country and that they are serving their leaders. But of course, this principle also worked out in NS Germany. And that's why I'm saying that it really depends on who you are having a cult of personality of. Number 3. North Korea is a crazy dictatorship. Now, besides China, this is one of the most popular arguments against socialism and quote-unquote communism. And to be fair, most points or claims that people are making against North Korea are most of the time just myths. Remember the myth that Koreans can only have 30 haircuts? Yeah, that one was wrong. In fact, the original article that claimed this didn't even have background sources. Additionally, there's a YouTube documentary called The Haircut, where two Australians with, less than 500 subs went to North Korea and got a haircut and met the people and filmed the people. And guess what? They got a normal haircut. And I know that there's gonna be some conspiracy theorists that say, hey, that shit was fake. But just give me an example, or give me a reason. How would the North Korean government know that two Australian people around the age of 25 come to North Korea just to get a haircut and just to have a movie of it? They wouldn't. I mean, it's not like these two Australians applied for their visa to North Korea hey man, can we get a haircut? No, they just took a normal trip to North Korea and went to a barber, and then they got a haircut. This is a normal socialist country, not 1984. So calm the fuck down. And also, if you're still doubtful, look around in the streets or in your local school or workplace. I bet that there is at least one common hairstyle that a lot of people have. Same story in any country, same story in North Korea. But that's also a thing that the people in The Haircut pointed out, so go watch that, it's a really great video. Number 4. But communism is so oppressive, it's not freedom. Now, this one isn't really a myth or something, this one is more of an opinion, but I just want to share a socialist's point of view here. One might argue that a free market society or a current capitalist system, as we have it, is a free system, a free society, or freedom in general. And that's kind of true, but also kinda not. Because if we say our society, socialists every time, or at least most of the time, they think of society as the entire population of the earth. Because in some way, the entire world is connected. After all, every day we consume products that were made in China, that were made in Africa, that were made in South America. But digging into why socialists care about our people is another question. I don't really know, that's probably some psychoanalysis or something. But as far as I know, most people would consider this what we like to call class consciousness. So basically what class consciousness means, you say or you think that we are in a free society and that this is freedom. And now a socialist might ask himself, freedom for whom? Because if you think about it, is the kid in Africa free? Is the farmer in South America free? Is the sweatshop worker in Bangladesh free? And if you look at most of these workers' conditions, you will probably argue that no, they are not free. Why aren't they free? They can refuse to work, under these bad conditions. But if they did, they would end up with no home, no food, no life. And they will likely not get any other job, because why would they work in these bad conditions in the first place, if they were able to do another job? So, in a way, these people are slaves. They are not free. So, cool. or actually not cool, these people in the third world are slaves. But what about us? Do we have freedom? And as I said before, socialists don't like to say we, as in we the first world, but we the human population. So if we look at the entire human population from that perspective, the first world isn't really free on its own. It's kind of the spoiled child. It's not self-sufficient, it's not independent, it's in fact exploitative. And if we go back to the slaves in Africa, South America and Asia, have you asked yourself, who are their masters? Now, as I mentioned before, I wouldn't say it's us, but it's us, the first world. So the first world is the slave owner, and the first world is free. But even in the first world, there's competition that leaves people that are unhappy with their working conditions homeless, foodless, shelterless. And that's the first world wage slaves. And now that we have all that covered, what's freedom to us, socialists? To us, freedom is not being able to stop working your job whenever you want. To us, freedom is to have a secure life, to have shelter, to have a home, to have food, to have healthcare, to have electricity, to have public transports. And you could say, yeah, cool, we have all that in most of Europe. But saying that the victories of social democracy are victories of socialism is an insult to socialists. Because everything social democrats do is take the good bits of socialism and add even more to the privileges the West has, while virtually doing nothing against the exploitation of slaves in South America, Asia and Africa. And that's why socialists consider socialist values more free than liberal values. Because that's nothing a good bit of democracy and capitalism will solve. And now as a last one, just to end off the video, I want to talk about number 5, China. A lot of people like to say, oh, but most sweatshops are in China. China is fucking poor. Now, Jimmy, that's a good point. But if you paid attention in history class, you would have noticed that after Mao Zedong's death, privatization has been a thing again in China. Why, you ask? Money. So, what did China do? Yeah, well, basically, they thought that all the people are poor, so they reintroduced privatization, and now people are even more poor. Now, does that sound anything like socialist logic to you? No, it sounds like capitalist logic. Because what's the point of privatization if it ends up making everything worse? Profit. And just in case you try to ride the Mao Zedong scapegoat even further, no, this change and the reintroduction of privatization was done after Mao Zedong's death, after their socialist revolutionary died. So that's the fucked up history of the Chinese slaves. So these are the 5 myths about socialism and communism I wanted to talk about. Thanks a lot for watching. If you liked the video or if you'd like to show support, leave a like and a subscribe below. Also, feel free to post a comment or share this on social media.